Welcome to Advocate with Dr. Rufus Lowe, where we aspire each and every day to eradicate the silence of good people who allow bad things to happen. And in doing so, we can together provide a new and glorious path forward for all. Our conversation will be based on the teachings of my latest book entitled Shadow Tolerance, Your Guide to Accepting Racial Difference. Shall we begin? The age of post-colonialism is a reference to the end of a time when empires took over occupied land and claimed the land as their own. This European take over what we now know as the United States guaranteed also the occupation of European culture. As colonialism meshed with capitalism, the need to make money to expand, dominate, and control meant seeking free labor, thus the need for slaves. Human beings of African descent were forcibly dragged across the Atlantic Ocean by way of the Middle Passage, where millions suffered horrific deaths, all in the name of capitalism, saving money to minimize transportation costs so that 200 years later, while standing in a voting booth, you can ask the question, is it really about the price of eggs? This is just a euphemism in case my mom is watching and or listening. It's really not about the price of eggs at all, but transactional people who want you to believe that it is because money can always be used as an excuse to hide racial indifference. Post-colonialism presented a complex challenge as the United States forged forward, separate from their colonial past and their parents, which for the United States meant revolutionary war against its mother country, Great Britain. This basically means that there were grassroots efforts to connect and correct social ills pertaining to race. This period was marked by efforts to reclaim cultural heritage and establish political and economic freedom and autonomy, an example of which being the blossoming of African American and literature and art in a culture that they wanted to keep during the 1920s and 30s, referred to as the Harlem Renaissance period. If you don't know what the Harlem Renaissance is, I will define it for brevity's sake, but I encourage that you research it a little on your own to get the full influence of its impact on our Black heritage and the American culture as a whole. The Harlem Renaissance was the flourishing of African American music, art, literature, and other creative forms, which reflected a new spirit of pride and self-expression during a time in which, in this nation's history, racial segregation was legally supported and also enforced. So it provided some dignity. Prior to this, however, the remnants of colonial influence lingered, often manifesting in the form of a neo-colonialism, where former colonial powers continue to exert influence through economic and political means. These struggles the nations face in their quest for identity and independence are mirrored in experiences of minority communities within more developed countries. They navigate the balance between cultural preservation and integration. And for Blacks and indigenous communities, this meant remnants of your own culture, keeping it or letting it go altogether. This is important to note for later discussion. We'll talk about it. The United States, however, developed into one such example and continues to develop until this day. Let's call it maturity. The global impact of colonialism, what happened after we call it post-colonialism, portray the struggles of a society maturing. It gives a lens through which we can better understand the complexities of race relations in our current societies, given our current situation. So what we'll do next is we'll discuss how we're going to connect racial hierarchy to colonialism on our next Advocate with Dr. Rufus Lowe.